Good afternoon. It's Ann Katzeff of Ask Design. Today I'm talking about layout and design with row and stack blocks in WordPress. The row and stack blocks are variations of the group block. Blocks are still grouped in containers, but arranged in either a horizontal row or stacked vertically. In this tutorial, we'll explore how the row and stack blocks expand the layout and design possibilities for your site. Let's go to the editor and select a group block, and we'll see that it has the default settings. I've left that alone, which means here in the Align section, it's defaulting to none, and the justification is center. So this is my floating toolbar, and in the right sidebar, the settings sidebar, we've got the group icon selected. The inner blocks use content with, and again, the justification is to center things. So the only thing I've changed, one, I've added this blue background to the group, and we go into the style and we can see I've got the background there. And then I've added a little bit of padding just so the content won't be touching the edge of the block, and it's a little bit easier to see. The next thing we'll do is select that same group, and let's duplicate it and then transform it to a row. You can see these other options, but for now we'll just transform it to a row and watch what happens in this section in the sidebar settings. The icon changes to a row, and now you have these different layout options: justify items center, left, right, space between, horizontal, vertical, all these things. And the toolbar has the same align, and this changes to justify items left, and now we have a vertical option to align to the top, the middle, the bottom, stretch to fill. This is where things get fun, and I encourage you to go ahead and play around. We'll do a little bit of it here. Let's change the justification and the orientation. So now I've got this row selected, and I'm going to change, let me see. Let's change it to center. I don't see anything happening there. Things go right. How about if we align to the top? Okay, things jump to the top. Let's align to the bottom. Stretch to fill, I'm not sure what that does. I'll have to explore that on my own. But notice in the sidebar, the settings sidebar, if we change the orientation from horizontal to vertical, the icon becomes a stack over here, and it starts to resemble a group rather than a row, and things are stacked, and it kind of makes sense. Let's keep the stack selected, but revert it back to a row. And the only change I want to explore now is to allow to wrap to multiple lines. Okay, it's still a row, but it's looking more like a regular group or even a stack. So pay attention to what happens when you change things in the sidebar. Does this icon change or not? And that's why we call them the row and stack blocks. That's why we call them variations of the group, because sometimes they just look like a plain old group, even though we've assigned a different block identification for it. Now, we started with a group block and transformed it to a row block and then a stack block just to compare the differences, but you can always begin by using individual blocks as needed, and then put those blocks into a group by selecting them. Let's give it a try. Let's go back to this row and transform it to a group. And then what? Let's just take them, actually, let's take them out of the group. Just slip them up here, right there. So if I just type a heading and some paragraphs and add an image, I can then select them and transform them into a group, and then begin my other transformations to a row or a stack. And of course, you can always add the row or stack or group block first, and then add your content into it. So let's try that. Let's take all of these out of it, just as I'm taking them out. I can also create the row, select the blocks I want, and put them into that row. So whatever workflow you feel most comfortable with is what you should do. And of course, to add a block, we'll do an add before. You can do a backslash, G for group. You can find it there in the listing, or R for row, just with the backslash, or backslash S. If you don't see it in this abbreviated list, you can always go up to, let's say, the add block area right here, the block inserter, and you'll see all these blocks that you have at your disposal. I have Cadence Blocks plugin installed, so I have other blocks at my disposal that you may not have. Let's try it with the abbreviated method, backslash R for row. You can see there are two blocks here. If I add a block, paragraph, you can always add another block for a heading, and you can reverse those if you want. Or if we just type a heading and then hit the return, you keep typing a paragraph and hit return, you just keep going, or hit the plus symbol for an image. You can upload or go to your media library. So there are various ways to add rows and stacks. Now things get very interesting when you begin to mix rows and stacks. You can achieve a lot of different layouts mixing them up, and I'll give you some examples. Let's begin with our original group block, and in the list view you can see its structure. What if I selected the heading and the paragraph, and let's first group them and then make those into a stack. Okay. And go back to the group itself and transform it to a row. So now we have, and I've got a duplicate down below. Now we've got a row containing a stack that's composed of the heading and the paragraph, and the other two paragraphs follow along in the sequence. Let's consider another scenario. As usual, I've got the same group block that we've been working with from the start. I'm going to make one key change to the default block settings. So I've got the group selected. I'm opening up my settings sidebar, and I'll change the content width. Right away you see a change, and the group itself, the blue area, will still take up the regular content width set up in my theme. And now the content inside the group is going to be constrained to 600 pixels. Now let's play around with the content a little bit. I'll change that, that heading to something a little different. And let's make it a little bigger. So let me see, how about large? Okay. And then a return \h for heading, and I'll make that another H4. Let me type in, whoops. Okay, and here's our sample text. I'll get rid of these other two paragraphs. And let's see what we've got so far. Interesting. All right, let's play around with these two headings. Let's group them and make that into, let me see, let me make it into a stack. And then above, add before, I'll add a row. Let me see, row. I'll place the stack inside the row. And off to the right here, I'll add a button. And let's say it's a call to action button. Well, we have to style that a little bit. Let's go to our settings sidebar in the style area, give it a black background. And what about the button itself? How about black and then white? And let's get rid of the black background for that. Okay. Now, things are looking pretty good. Let's see what we've got here. A row containing a stack with the heads and then a button. What if we changed the justification so that we've got space between? I like that because it pushes the button off to the right, aligning right with the end of the paragraph, and that looks good. The next example shows a modified version of the navigation bar that I use on my tutorial blog. I've placed 3 blocks inside one row block. So we've got, in the list view, we've got the row, and then the stack containing the site logo and the site title. And their alignment is to justify the center and align to the top. We can change that around if you want, but let's leave it alone for now. Then I've got a row that just contains the site tagline, and then another row with all the main navigation. And the reason I'm putting these 3 elements in 3 different kinds of blocks is so that I can then control the space in between each of the blocks. Now I'm back to the row, and let's see what we've got. We're using the wide width here, so I've actually changed that. I do have space between items, which pushes things apart and gives equal space between each of these blocks, stack, row, row. And then I've got it aligned to the bottom. Okay. Now we can start styling. And by the way, when you go to the patterns library in WordPress, and I'll put the link at the bottom of, in the comments section of this tutorial, you can learn a lot from other people and how they construct their different patterns. It's a great way to see what other people are thinking, and there's always more than one way to do something, and I really enjoy seeing how other people approach the same problem. So now we're going to style this row. I've got it, I think I have it selected. Let me open that up. Yep. Okay, so the row itself is selected. I'll go to the settings sidebar and the styles. I've got a background of this lovely turquoise, and all of the text is white. And then I just want to change that one item, the site title. Select that, go to the settings sidebar, and because it is a hyperlink, I've got it changed here to black as opposed to the text because it's a hyperlink. Now everything else is the same in the second version, but I'm changing the site title again to a light green, and then the site tagline, again, I'm in the block area settings sidebar. I'm changing that to black just to show that you can apply styles to the entire row or group, stack, or individual blocks inside those items. Okay, we've come to the end of our tutorial for today. I hope you gained some insights. If you have any questions, drop them into the comments and I'm happy to try to answer them. Take care. Thank you.